All right, listeners, we are so excited to return for our season 2 of our holiday series. We are keeping the name because it was a big hit last time. We are so excited to have Lisa, our sister, on as a guest for this episode. If you haven't listened to our Meet Me in St. Louis episode, also featured in our Jingle All the Way episode, big Christmas fan in the house over here. So we had to have her back for another season. But Lisa, welcome back to the pod.
Thanks, guys. I'm happy to be here bringing the Christmas cheer. And yeah, I think I just realized that I've kind of just been on the Christmas themed movies. So it's a nice trend and third one.
And you have your Christmas mug ready.
I know.
She's got it.
I'm all ready to go.
Who's not on video, she has a nice Christmas tree mug. So Deborah would be very pleased with her cup choice, which we will get into, don't worry. Today we are covering Elf, iconic. We use the word iconic a lot on this podcast, as you know. So Lisa, since you're on as our guest, I would love to start with you. What is your first memory of watching Elf?
My first memory of seeing any of the movie was at Aunt Grace's house. This was our annual Thanksgiving gathering that we went to at our dad's aunt's house in Connecticut. They had, I guess it could have been like their garage. They had like a little room. I don't even know if there was a couch there. Kids could have been sitting on the floor. I just remember kids huddled around a TV. And I don't remember sitting down to watch the whole thing, but I saw that it was Will Ferrell, and we were obsessed with Will Ferrell. So I was like, this is going to be great, whatever it is. Do one of you have a memory from your first time?
Yeah. Michelle, I want to hear from you because I actually don't remember.
Yeah. I don't think that I have a first memory. The memory that I have around it is, I'm curious if other firstborn kids who are listening to this may have experienced something similar, but when I went away to college, want to guess that I maybe didn't see it until late, maybe 2004, 2005, but I definitely did not see it in the movies. And I very much just think of you guys quoting it. Another one of these, I think we've mentioned this in other episodes, but I think I almost knew the quotes before I saw the movie.
Yeah, so for me, I saw this for my 10th birthday at the Palisades Mall. Shout out Palisades Mall.
Lisa, why didn't you go?
I know. I'm surprised Lisa didn't chaperone my birthday party.
I don't know. And I mean, I guess it's possible I was there and I don't remember, but wow, what a party.
Yeah, it was a group of probably 8 people. And I remember mom and dad, I made them sit a couple rows behind us. I was like, this is my 10th birthday. I really want some privacy. It just hit the 20-year anniversary, so it was really special. So I turned 30 with this film turning 20. And it's probably a movie that I've seen more than any other movie, or it has to be up there, especially in the Will Ferrell universe. So Lisa, I'm guessing, I feel like with Aunt Grace Thanksgiving, I actually remember that exact day. Because obviously this would have been released. It was released on November 7th, so just a couple weeks shy of Thanksgiving. So it probably was like a year after.
Yes.
Maybe 2004, 2005. And I remember, I hope Sarah listens to this episode, because I remember you and Sarah were kind of chaperoning, and it got to the shower scene with Jovi. She was like, oh, maybe the young kids shouldn't be in the room for this. Even though they don't show anything. But they were, some of our cousins are really, really little. I think I just have a definitely deeper bond with this movie since I saw it at such a milestone birthday for me and at the Palisades Mall. I mean,
Oh my
no
gosh.
better place to see this.
If you missed our retrospective on the Palisades Center, please listen to our Jingle All the Way episode, in which Lisa is a call in guest, but we chat a lot about the mall in that one.
Yeah, I think the Palisades Mall owes us some money because we're probably gonna help. They need some help these days, and I think that our listener base may pay some of their stores a visit after listening to our holiday series. So it's gonna be great.
Did anything stand out to you that you had either forgotten about or that you had never noticed before?
So John Favreau, I believe, is the director, and he's the pediatrician. I feel like whenever I research these movies, and then you find out that like a director, like it's pretty common, like they'll put themselves in the movie at some point. But just to be that character, like it was just so perfect. And I also love that he's a New Yorker. Like there was just like a lot of stuff that I researched that I was like, this is just perfect.
Such a good
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah. This is so like when he's putting those cotton swabs in his mouth, like I always thought that that was funny, but like now that I have kids, I was just dying.
Was the opening scene and really Papa Elf kind of setting up this story in a really creative way and I think it's just a great job of the script and how he lays it out, and it's not similar to every other movie you see. There's not like a lot of like, I guess, cliche things. And the animation, I think that's something that, you kind of just put on the back burner because you're so focused on the hilarious parts. But usually I'll skip over credits in the beginning, and I always love watching the credits for this movie just because it's so beautiful. And I love at the end that is tying back to like a children's book. I think there's a lot of, even though I don't have the designer mind like you two, I think I can really appreciate it. And I think that it adds like something special to it. It's just a very joyous and exciting introduction before you kind of get to the meat and potatoes of it.
Like Lisa, I loved the John Favreau ness of it, and when I watched it yesterday, I kind of had the thought that like this was kind of the beginnings of him really starting to take off, and I just was thinking from a creative standpoint like how exciting it must have been for him to make this movie, to have it turn into truly like a classic movie. We're now at 20 years. I think that we can say it definitively. It belongs in the Christmas Movie Hall of Fame. I think he did such a fantastic job of creating something that's really unique. But the other two things that I noticed in more detail last night, I had always known that Bob Newhart was Papa Elf, but I, like, as a kid, grew up watching Nick at Night. I mean, all of us did, but like, I'm like a really big, like, classic TV fan. And I can't believe that I didn't realize that Ed Asner plays Santa Claus. So that was kind of like a fun discovery to know that there are these like two really big, TV stars from the 70s who, I mean, they have careers before that, but what I know them most from is from Bob Newhart's show and Mary Tyler Moore. So that was really cool that he got both of them to be in this movie. And then that just kind of made me think about how there are so many great parts in this movie. And obviously Buddy is like, front and center, but there are like a lot of like medium-sized roles that are all really important, and I love when stories can be told in that way. And then the other thing Laura kind of touched on a little bit with the little animations, I like that there were a lot of little nods to other Christmas movies in there. The animations kind of being like those Is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman the two for you guys that come
Yeah.
to mind?
I feel like that's just a nod to also just Christmas storybooks and
Yes.
things that you would normally see.
And then I loved the little nod to It's a Wonderful Life when he's on the bridge. This movie's just executed so well.
Yeah, I love that you said 20 years when you think about a movie like gaining so much clout, I guess is a long time, but it's so woven into like the fabric of what people think when they think of Christmas movies now. I always think of like if there's a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie or some other holiday movie being released now, I never think of those as going to go on to be so popular in the future. And I think he kind of had like this golden ticket with this movie. I don't know if he thought it was going to be as big as it was. I guess having Will Ferrell attached to it certainly helps, but I wonder if he could have ever seen how big this really ended up being.
I definitely was having the thought last night that when you come out with anything Christmas related, there is a chance that it will end up being like a classic and something that people talk about for years, and that memes and all of those things just become huge with it. And also another thought I was having was this came out in 2003. So of course, like Michelle, you mentioned before, you're just thinking about your life during that year in the context of like what was going on with you. But because we were all born in New York State, I definitely was having thoughts last night like, oh, this was only a few years after 9/11. So that was definitely relevant to me. And even though, this is like a fictional story, once he ends up in the city, I was paying attention, especially when he first got there, when he's like walking through and everybody's just like in their mundane like work day with like their heads down and like people kind of like just in a daze, and he's just like this silly ridiculous guy who just like comes and like starts making a scene in the city. And it's almost like comforting in a way to see that people still, it's even relevant today 20 years later, like need that joy and that kind of silliness just like out of nowhere. And I think like that's why people are so drawn to Christmas movies, because especially the comedies, there's just like a lightness to them. And I just love that dynamic of somebody like so positive like him coming to a place where people are like pretty serious and just like, won't give somebody who is being like extra kind like the time of day. It's like the perfect dynamic.
I'm wondering if most of the people that are in the movie, like the extras, are just normal people, because Will Ferrell's obviously like big on improv and he really thrives off that environment and just being able to like go into some, like, I'm sure he didn't follow the script to a T, but I could see him like wanting to work off the energy just of people who are surrounding him in the city. And the reactions seem so genuine in most of the movie, like even with him walking across the street and going up to the guy in the red outfit. Like I truly wonder if they just found someone, because it just seems so real. Or maybe they're just amazing actors.
When he's waiting to get on the escalator and like he's just like trying to figure out how this thing works, and then the people standing next to him like he like ends up backing up the line because nobody knows what to do. And like if you look at the three people standing next to him, their faces, it's just like the funniest. Like people are like, you can't tell if like people are thrown off by like the outfit or just like he has no idea.
You have good intuition, because I did read last night that it's not all of the scenes, but specifically the scene that you mentioned with the guy in like the red tracksuit, Jon Favreau and Will Ferrell just kind of like went around the city and did like just walked around and saw what happened, and then they got permission from the people afterwards. And Lisa, what you said is so spot on, that like not only was this movie released right after 9/11 when like our country was healing and like we needed this, you know, positivity and to have something be like so uplifting and heartwarming. But also just like the simplicity of the contrast of just sticking someone like Buddy in New York City, like the crankiest place in the world. And I know that we're going to like have a very long list of our favorite lines, but so many of the funny things that he says are just like regular sentences that are like, it's the way that he says them, like we've already mentioned a few times before we started recording, and then after starting recording, just him when he accepts the cup of coffee from his dad's secretary, and he just says like, "Thank you, Deborah." Like just the way that he says it and someone being nice is funny.
So I feel like we've already started rattling off a lot of things that we've loved about this movie. But Michelle, let's start with you. What are some of your favorite things about Elf?
All right, I'll go back to something that you mentioned, which is how this movie starts. We get this great opening with Papa Elf, like a prologue almost, and then we jump to the credits. But this is something else that I had never really picked up on, that the credits are illustrated like a children's book story, and they do such a good job of like keeping this theme throughout the entire movie. The fact that Buddy's dad, Walter, like works in children's book publishing, and that, spoiler, ultimately writing the story of Buddy the Elf, which is essentially the story that we're hearing. And it just gives me chills when I think about it because it's simply done and well done, and it was just a great creative way to set the structure for this movie.
It's like a writer's dream, even though it's, you know, not a Academy Award winning film. I think it should be in the just the way that this is set up, and it's just they do such a good job.
The other thing that I really liked about this movie, and thinking about it as a like either a kids movie or an all ages type movie, it's been a while since I've seen a Pixar movie, but from my memory, I think that the reason that adults initially like some of those like Toy Story, like the first Pixar movies, was that they felt like they were going to a kids movie, but that there were jokes in there for adults. But I feel like over time it kind of ended up being these like a regular kids story, but then with these like aggressive winks, like, we know you're out there, adults in the audience, like watching this with your kids. But I don't feel like Elf does that. I feel like it is a true all audiences kind of movie. The jokes are for everyone, and there's not like the separation of like, this is the part for the kids, and then here are the funny parts for the adults.
And I think it's so important what you said about Will Ferrell just being Will Ferrell, but I think his execution of it is what makes it so funny, and the surrounding characters who are so in this completely different mindset and world, that is so comedic to me.
Lisa, have your kids seen Elf yet?
Yeah, they've seen it. I think last year probably all of them watched it, but I don't know if they sat down and watched the entire thing, but it's been on in our house. That's a great point that you made. I do feel like it's an all audience is friendly movie. And also I feel that they didn't, because Will Ferrell provides so much of the comedy and other actors in the movie, they didn't really have to put like there was like not a lot of crude humor. It's just very like conversational, and we appreciate like a classy movie. And I definitely consider this one of those. Yeah, I think that I appreciate a movie that you can just put on and not worry about who's going to walk into the room. Definitely that matters when you have kids.
This is minor, but I really liked that they made Mary Steenburgen's character of Emily as like very, angelic and nice, because I think that if I kind of like someone told me the idea for this story and I was hopping in to like help write it, I would immediately make her into being more of a like, like a bimbo or like a mean character. I was kind of picturing Rhea Perlman's character in Matilda, like that kind of like checked out type of woman. And I felt like it having her be so sweet provided like a nice balance, because I felt like we had that enough with Walter, but I could definitely see them going another way where like she is maybe even like worse than him. She could have more had the role of like a Miles Finch or like his boss, in being like just another person that's like trying to keep him in this world away from Buddy. Especially when it comes down to it, she is like his stepmom. So they could have very much made that evil, and I'm glad that they did not.
Oh, she's impossible to be a mean character, though. We love her. We love
Yes.
her and everything she's in. Lisa, what about you?
Watching the movie again with the intention of picking up on things that I haven't before definitely changed my perspective. I really paid attention to the relationships more this time instead of like just Jovi and Buddy. I feel like even though they're kind of like the focus, there are like a lot of other relationships that go on. In the beginning with Papa Elf, I was definitely paying more attention to that one now. And like, I know it's like so ridiculous, but like now that I'm a parent, it was just like when I was watching him like send him off to like the big city, I was like, wow, like they really thought, like the writers kind of Christmas movie. And like I never looked at it that way. And so I guess that's the fun thing about rewatching things when you're older. I feel like the comedy, just like you almost take it for granted because it's throughout the entire movie. And there are so many good scenes just like in Walter's office, like alone, like the mailroom scene. I can't. It's not even that long, but every time that scene comes and like he ends up dancing on the table, I just like, I feel like I'm like crying and laughing.
I feel like this must have been Will Ferrell's dream role because he just got to create this character with Jon Favreau and truly transform into Buddy Elf.
Like again, when I was researching it, I'm always interested to see the ages of actors during these films because we were so young when it came. I was in middle school when this came out. Zoe Deschanel was 23 and Will Ferrell was 36. So
Wow.
I just turned 34 and I just like, to me, to know that he was 36 when this came out and like a lot older than her, and also just like a nod to how amazing he is as an actor and that he could just like play such like a childlike role is just incredible at that age. Like he's a full grown man and he was able to play that innocent character so flawlessly.
Don't you think it's kind of funny that Zoe was playing this kind of jaded New Yorker, essentially, and kind of seeing what her persona turns into? And I had the thought that if they were remaking this, and that if she had not been in it and they like gender reversed it, like she would definitely be a contender to be like Buddy the Elf, like the female version. Like she's just as Buddy as Will Ferrell is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Especially her character as Jess in New Girl. She is very like goofy and innocent and kind of childlike. And so, yeah, I agree. Like, I think she was in a few films where she did have that similar character as Jovi, where she was just like uninterested in things and, kind of like just like didn't want to be bothered attitude. But yeah, then like those roles changed over time. So, which like I'm happy. I like when actors are given a chance to just kind of like reinvent themselves because they have to work for that. It's not like it just happens, a lot of times they're just offered these roles and, they want to make a living. They have to take them. But she definitely also, I feel like I have the same respect for her as Will Ferrell. She really like, I know she comes from like a family that was already in the film business, but after that, she really like propelled herself too. And again, like if you look back and like you realize like that probably wasn't a huge role for her in hindsight, like she was lucky to get it, but there were like some veteran actors in that movie too that people were probably excited to see.
It's also really nice that just in the holiday spirit, having an actress who also knew how to sing and being able to incorporate that into multiple parts of the movie, I think made it a little bit more special. I know that she only sings in, I think, maybe 3 scenes or 2 scenes, or 3. Yeah, 'cause she gets her piano moment at the end with Walter. I love her voice. She has that classic old voice, like reminds you of Christmas songs that, your grandparents used to play when you went over for Christmas. So I think it's very special.
Laura, tell us, other than making work your favorite, what else is your favorite?
Kind of starting at the beginning, I really love the marriage or the kind of crossover between the North Pole and the real world and kind of merging these two places and it coming into play with just Buddy's whole experience and who he is as a person. So they were kind of able to use these 2 settings and create a character, but like a character that lives within him. Like Lisa said, it is such a deep cut, being able to use that as a through line throughout the whole movie. Because I think it's something that everyone can relate to, maybe in your 20s and 30s, 40s, however old you are, you're trying to figure yourself out. Sometimes you truly feel like you don't belong. Maybe it's in friend groups or families or new groups that you join. And I thought it was really great to take something that's so universally understood and turn it into a kid's movie, but also a movie that adults can connect with. But I think just having this like sparkly storybook setting that you just want to live in, even though you're just so confused that this exists, and then being propelled into, the hellhole of New York City and everyone being miserable around the holidays, but also like the charm and the weirdness of it all. I think that it's something that we definitely understand even more, that we were lucky enough, I think, to grow up right outside the city. And then I think beyond that, the comedy is just going to be number one every time for me. I mean, we will get into this in the next section, but it's really everything that he says. The subtleties are funny. The execution, truly everything that he says. Like even, I probably wouldn't say this is like my favorite line, but when he's in the mailroom, Lisa, and he gives him the alcohol and he thinks it's syrup, and just the way that he delivers, very generous of you. Like, and it's so like sincere. It's really coming from a place of him, not understanding that people drink or have bad intentions and being so oblivious to the fact that like I always love that conversation between him and Michael in the elevator when they're jumping up and down and he says, "Dad's the greatest dad in the world." And he's like, "No, he's the worst dad in the world," because he just wants to see the good in everyone. And Lisa, you said this so well at the beginning, but I do think that most Christmas movies really allow us to take a step back and trying to bring out the best in other people, even though a lot of us are miserable and stressed. Just getting even deeper into like the settings, like all of the places that they're able to play with, like using gimbals as such a platform for many hilarious scenes and being able to use the physical things that are inside the store brings out the comedy, but also like allows them to be so creative. Their apartment, like, you know, you having this idealistic view of upper class in New York City and having this beautiful, probably Upper West Side, Upper East Side apartment, and him being able to like be playing in the kitchen and playing in the living room and creating, trying to create, you know, where he's from. Having Central Park as such a big, prominent part of this. It didn't feel like the touristy places in this movie were just thrown in there. It felt like it was very meaningful and added to it versus we're just using it out of necessity.
I agree. And I also feel like it's appropriate because he really is like a tourist in a new place. If you pay attention to the dynamic between him and Michael, it truly is like so funny that like they act like brothers. Like when Michael gets out of school and like he's walking out of school with his friends and then Buddy like sees him coming out and like Michael tries to act like he has no idea who he is. He's like, no, I don't know who that is. And then also back to the mailroom for the third time, like his dad just like it's like bring your son to work day basically whenever he's in the office and he's just trying to like shoo him away to keep him busy with things basically. So
Thoughts that they hit on. But I think his like experience when he first comes to New York, right? And he eats the gum. He is, you know, going through the revolving doors, going into the coffee shop. Like those aren't like quintessential New York things that I would think of. I if I was trying to give Buddy the New York experience, and I think it was so out of the box to include those things and like going to a department store and putting fruit spray in your mouth. Like that I think is just unmatched comedy because it's creating this space where it's like not so cliche and then giving Will Ferrell like the opportunity to just do what he does best and probably improvise a lot of that. One other thing that I wanted to put out there as we're just talking about Christmas classics and kind of the formula, you know, what really works in like a Santa Claus 1, 2, and 3 or Home Alone. And I think all of them kind of have their own special score and this lightness to them. And I think the score works really well. But I really love the music, like the soundtrack choices for this movie, because yes, they're all Christmas classics, but for some reason they just work so well. And it doesn't feel like they're just like thrown in there. It feels like they're perfectly matched.
When I think of this movie, I had like as you were talking, I really had to think about what Christmas songs they play. the instrumentals, the soundtrack is like what I think of first. And I think that they do a really good job of like weaving both of those things together. And the fact that I can't like, that it was hard for me to think of them in my mind, like makes it better because I don't know, sometimes certain songs can get like too attached to a movie. And then when you hear it on the radio, like you only think of that. Yeah, I feel like there's just more fluidity with this, the score and the soundtrack working together.
We clearly have so many good things to say about this movie, but Michelle, let's start with you. What did you hate?
The Curls MT font that they use in the opening credits needs to go. That is something that dates the movie, and it was just a really lazy choice, in my opinion.
Empty.
I concur. Also, I feel like it is like an elfin font, though. So, like, I despise it, but I feel like they probably did that just with the intention to, like, go with the whole elf focus. But, yeah, no, that does date it, like, specifically during that time period where fonts were the worst ones were often like in the forefront of design, and that's definitely something that I picked up on also.
All right, this next one is a nitpick. Who left Santa's cookies on the changing table at the orphanage?
I think the nun.
I'm not saying like who as in let's solve the mystery. Who as in why would you make that choice? Diapers and cookies should not go near each other.
It's also strange to me kind of that they left them out in that room with all of the cribs. Like the tree was in there. I get it. So they they put it where the tree was, but like those were all babies. Like I didn't put cookies out until my kids could put cookies out.
Growing up, did we leave out cookies and milk? I only remember leaving out a carrot for the reindeer, and I remember Dad writing us notes back. But did we leave out cookies? Because I feel like we weren't a big cookie baking household.
There were periods where there were some healthy alternatives in there, but I feel like we had a handful of good years where the cookies that we left out for Santa were definitely like remnants of Christmas Eve that like someone else made.
100%.
Yeah, I don't remember us like sitting down and baking cookies for Santa. It was usually like a sometimes we didn't leave out like pumpkin pie or something. I could see Mom and Dad like trying to get rid of the desserts from Christmas Eve. So we had Christmas Eve at our house.
I'm sure there were some biscotti left. Like we probably put biscotti, or if we were trying to do normal cookies, it was probably like those Newman's Own like fake Oreos could have been left out as well. I feel like the focus on the reindeer, like because of the carrots, was like more of a big deal to us. Like we always left carrots because we always had carrots, and not only did we have carrots,
it was like the legit carrots. It wasn't the baby carrots.
There was a stalk.
Yes. The carrots with the green stalk from the Hungry Hollow Co-op. Like that.
It had some like dirt on it.
Reindeer was getting like something pulled from the ground.
We were like, we are certified organic in this household. We're like, Santa, you're getting the Newman's Own.
Santa's
not
on the
even
back
Oreo.
burner. Reindeer really got the star treatment at our house.
Michelle, anything else for you?
Yes, two other minor things. These are not these are not knocks on the movie. These are just, one is a personal problem I have with. I realize how much the Pop Goes the Weasel toy in general is just very anxiety inducing. Like,
do you realize at the end when he's in the sleigh that it comes up again?
Yeah, like as like a scary moment. I wonder if Jon Favreau like hates those, and this was kind of his way of like, do you realize like how awful those like that toy is? Maybe he's like scarred from it. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm scarred from it, but when I saw it, I was like, what an awful toy. And my last one was I wanted to believe that they were just maybe older boys, but all the people throwing the snowballs like looked like grown men. And I was like, why are they throwing snowballs at Michael and Buddy? Like so aggressively.
Yeah. Lisa, anything for you?
I just generally lose interest towards the end of the movie. Like, I love the movie, but I feel like sad that it loses steam at the end. Like, I feel like they go really strong with like the plot and the maybe because there's less comedy at the end. Like, it is so chock full of like jokes, and then like the end is all like the serious part. I just feel like it kind of takes a turn and is like less exciting. Oh, I guess one thing that still like I thought I would be able to see it and be okay with it. When he makes the spaghetti, when he makes breakfast for himself, and he like starts with the big plate of spaghetti and then he adds like the Pop-Tarts and all the things, like I just like I know it's like not meat or anything, but I was just like, this is so gross. Like, I could not. I think because it's the morning skeeves me out more than anything. Like, I can't imagine eating a plate of pasta like before I had to go about my day. Like, it just like was so gross. Like, and like with the syrup too, I was just like, it's too much.
And you know he ate that.
Yeah, for real.
He had to eat it. That's the worst part. He had to eat it. And also the bags of the pasta with the spaghetti with the syrup. I was like, this is so gross. I do
feel like I have to salute them though, that they really go as far if you pay attention. Like, I just love that he says, and lunch, and he gives her the bag and it says like Emily on it. Like he made everyone bagged lunches. So
I know,
in
script.
That plays up the sweetness though, Michelle. She's so kind. Like, she's not, she hides it so well. She's like choking down the food, but she's so grateful that he's making them breakfast and lunch.
Did you guys notice his face when he's watching Emily eat it for the first time? I was thinking, I'm like, that's like all of us after we cook something and serve it to someone.
Yes.
Absolutely. So accurate. I have small nitpicks. One being that there's no way that his mailroom friend is, I think he's supposed to be 25 years old.
Yeah.
He's not 25. No. There's no way. He's 25 years old. He's got nothing to show for it.
I feel like he just like was clearly just like making that up. Like yeah,
probably.
He's like messing with him because he was clearly so gullible.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they were just drunk and I don't know. Other thing is this, again, I agree, Lisa. I definitely lose steam at the end. I don't know why. I'm never a fan of like the Central Park Rangers. Like, I always like lose interest during that time. There's certain things that I like about the news anchor, but I don't know why. I always lose steam during that part. And it's always confusing to me because I feel like Buddy goes on his date the night before, or I always think it's the night before, and then he shows up at the office later, and it feels like it's 2 different days. And I know it's dark right now. Like, in December, it would be dark out, but there's no way they're having this meeting with Mr. Greenway at like 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve. It's just, I know they have to make the stakes high and make it on Christmas Eve, so it's more dramatic, but I just don't think there's any way. Also, but I do love this part. I think it's really cute. There's no way that everyone's watching New York 1 on Christmas Eve. They got nothing better to do.
The people in the bar, yeah.
Jovi's eating her ramen. The kids all have TVs in their bedroom. I'm like, we didn't have a TV in our room. So, but again, not things that I would deduct points from this movie for.
Good points, though, Laura. Definitely a bit of the time is weird in those
I just don't get
last
it.
scenes. And also like cuz when he bursts into the office, it definitely looks like he's like just finishing up his date. But then Jovi is eating ramen and they get in the fight and then he runs away. Like that's all the same day. It's too
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Too much.
It's too much, but I don't think I didn't pay attention about that meeting being set for Christmas Eve like until this time when I watched it, when his boss goes to complain about the missing pages with the story just ends abruptly.
He's a great character, by the way. He's
Mr. Greenway.
He's so great at being a bad,
He
like a
is.
mean boss.
He is. But it was just like ironic because Walter didn't really care about any of the Christmas spirit. And then all of a sudden he was like appalled that he had to have that done by Christmas Eve.
Let's talk about our favorite scenes. I personally am going to have multiple today, so
All right, Laura, since you have so many, why don't you go first?
I think one of my favorite ones kind of goes hand in hand with what Lisa was talking about earlier. I think that the pediatrician office is truly one of the funniest scenes. Just he is so distracted. Like I think one of my favorite things that he says in there is like, "Why is there a skeleton in the corner?" Like it's just, "Can I play with your necklace?" Just the dialogue between him and Walter saying, "Am I sick?" And he's like, "Yes, but that's not why we're here," you know? Spitfire back and forth, and just his entire reaction and him being so afraid, but like a little concerned, but like kind of playful that he's looking at Jon Favreau when he's about to give him the finger prick. And he's like, he got mad at me. I just think the execution is so funny, and anyone who's been to like a doctor's office as a kid or adult can like relate to that experience. And it's just people in the most absurd circumstances bringing in a man off the street who he thinks is his kid to get this DNA test. I talked a lot about how I love the merging of the worlds, but I like that we spend a lot of time in the North Pole. And I think that a lot of those opening scenes are really funny when, you know, when we're introduced to him and he's sitting in the classroom. But I really love when he's so behind on the production line of making Etch-a-Sketches. And I just love that whole dialogue that he's so, I guess like his mannerisms of just him going back and forth. And he's like, I'm going to be a little behind on today's quota. Other scenes that I love, the dinner table scene is just so good, where he's, you know, speaking so truthfully about like coming here from the North Pole, kind of what Michelle was saying earlier. And even though the burping is like kind of childish, like I remember as a kid, like always thinking that that was very silly and funny. I think one of my favorite full quotes that he says is when he picks up Michael from school and he has that entire dialogue of like, "Huh, I'm glad I caught up to you. Wow, you're fast. Great news. I saw a dog today. Have you seen a dog? You probably have. Why is your coat so big? Do you have a friend? Do you have a best friend? Does he have a big coat too?" The scene where there's the Santa imposter, and I think this leads me to my favorite line of all time.
You stink.
I think you're gonna have a good Christmas, all right?
You smell like beef and cheese. You don't smell like Santa.
Like that feels like a Will Ferrell quote that he just thought of, that it wasn't written into the script. And you know, he's so genuinely disgusted. Like he says, "You disgust me. How could you live with yourself?" And then he looks at the kid and says, "Paul, don't tell him what you want. He's a fake." What about you, Lisa?
Definitely off the bat is when he's in the department store and ends up in the lingerie section. The writing that they thought to just have him like wandering around like the lingerie section and like so innocently he has no idea what these clothes even are. He doesn't know anything. And then he just gets pulled into the toy section. Like, I love that he just was in elf clothing. So like he was just thought to be an employee. Like, it was as simple as that. It was like, you shove on your brake. Like, it was just like, you're not supposed to be here. His interactions with what is the manager's name?
He's wearing a name tag that says Wanda on it. And apparently the actor comedian Wanda Sykes was supposed to play that role.
Really?
And like last minute
would
had to like pull out, and
Yeah.
they just decided to like keep the name tag the same. But like she would have been incredible. But also this guy is like my favorite thing of the entire movie. But whoever like designed his costume, they need all the awards. The what, it's like a vest or like a cardigan, and then the lights necklace. I love him so much.
Absolutely fantastic. So the actor Faison Love, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Couples Retreat, but that's another movie that I love and I love him in. But he is just, the comedy is unmatched. And I feel like I've never worked in retail, but I can just imagine, like, I went into a store the other day just to try on clothes and they were already playing Christmas music. Like, I think people who work in retail must hate Christmas. But Lee, I'm happy that you brought up that scene because I was trying to find a way to incorporate how much I love that interaction when the other person who works at the store, who's an elf, and he's having his manager sign something, and Will Ferrell's like so excited to see like someone in elf and he just goes, oh.
His boss, I mean, if we want to call him Wanda, the Wanda replacement. I also just like back to that New Yorker attitude. I love how he's just like such a pessimist, like working in the children's toy department. And I love when he makes the announcement that Santa's coming, that he has to like turn on this cheery like 10 a.m.
Lisa, what about favorite lines for you?
I think I have to say when Walter has the meeting with the writers and they're trying to figure out about the book, like the plot of the new children's book, like that whole, it's hard for me to just pick one line because there are so many lines in that whole scene where they're in his office that are so good. But like when they're trying to figure out like that Miles Finch like is gonna save them basically, you know, and we say this all the time. They're like, the guy has written more classics than Dr. Seuss, and then like we bring him in.
Those two side characters, I think everyone in the office, like when they show where everyone is, like when everyone's singing the Christmas Carol, I love that the three of them are together because they are so good. They're so good together. Also, just the Miles Finch scene is...
Oh, he's so good. He's so
good. It's so good. Like, I love that. And I just saw that people are starting to circulate the meme of like him coming in and saying like, I'm in love and I don't care who knows. And I love that he like throws his fur hat in the air.
I think also like the first time you see that movie and you don't know who Miles Finch is gonna be, and then like you're just like, the whole thing is just hysterical. Like it is so hysterical that that's like the most childlike Buddy is in like the entire movie, where he just like has no idea, like his condescending jokes and all that. It's too good.
Michelle, what about you? What comes to mind?
Definitely all of the interactions with his manager at Gimbel's are all like my favorite scenes and favorite lines. I mean, it's not really like when you put it by itself a line just like the 10 a.m. Santa's coming to town, but it's having the build up of like exactly as Lisa described it, this really jaded, uninterested in working in a children's department person has to like turn it on like to make that announcement, and just knowing how phony he's being is hilarious to me. I think one of like an underrated scene is when Buddy and Michael show back up at the apartment, like with the tree. I love that Michael says, like, buddy, cut it down in the park. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but it, like, I laugh out loud every time. Also, like, knowing that that line was coming, I was, like, really paying attention. And James Caan is fabulous, like, in his expression when he walks in and sees it. And by that point, like, he's already spent time with Buddy. He knows what's happening, and he's just like, I cannot believe that this is, like, continuing to escalate.
So felonies are fun now.
Oh my gosh. Another thing is, did you ever notice, like, after the night that he stays there and he doesn't sleep and he builds the rocking horse out of, where did you get the wood? Like, when James Caan walks, like, out of his room or whatever with the paper, like, he doesn't see anything. He doesn't see, like, his entire, like, wall unit disassembled. And he doesn't even notice any of the decorations at all. Like, I feel like that was a very dad moment when I saw that. Like, he's not looking around at his surroundings. He's just looking at whatever he's looking at. And then and then one of, like, the snowflakes hits him in the head or something. And he just, like, pushes it out of the way.
I also love in the scene before that he's wearing, like, a full onesie to bed. Like, where did he get this red onesie? When he makes him tuck him in, it's so funny because, like, he didn't pack anything with him. He's just wearing that outfit.
He probably knit it or something.
Yeah. But that's another thing that I always, sorry, this isn't really going into, like, favorite lines, but, he says, like, he's not good at anything. Like, he's a really bad elf, but look at all these amazing things he can create. So he can't be that bad of an elf.
It really makes me want to make paper snowflakes.
Oh,
doesn't it?
Yes.
It does.
It does. It's so beautiful too. Like, that's another thing, another, like, design appreciation, especially in the store. Like, the toy department, which is, like, very, like, not aesthetically pleasing, and, like, when he transforms it, it's so beautiful, so perfect.
Yeah.
And the house too.
What about quotes for you, Michelle?
I don't think that this is the exact line. This is the way that we always say it, is the, like, they must have sent in a professional.
Someone must have sent in a professional.
And I think my favorite thing that Will Ferrell says as Buddy is, again, this is, like, such a stupid, like, I'm reading these, I'm like, these are all really stupid, but I like when he goes, who the heck are you?
It is. He's so earnest. Yeah, it really is. Like, there is nothing that's too stupid. All the lines are so good. Also, what's more vulnerable than a peach?
Yeah.
Like, that
Brilliant.
entire scene.
What did this movie make us want to eat? We talked about what this movie did not make us want to eat. Lisa does not want to eat spaghetti with syrup and Pop-Tarts and candy first thing in the morning.
Before I answer this question, what in the hell is a sugar plum?
I think it's a fruit.
Is it? Because does anyone know what a sugar
We've
plum
just
is?
been accepting its existence. Is it real?
A sweet treat made of dried fruit, nuts, warm spices, coated in crunchy sugar.
It's a melange?
It looks like a munchkin, but I think it's, like, a little bit more, it's not made of bread. I think it's grainy.
Wait, is it manufactured or is it like...
It's like something you bake.
Oh.
You put like dates and walnuts and cranberries and prunes, and you mix them all together and you put them in the food processor, you roll them into balls, and then you coat them in sugar.
This sounds terrible.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I would always picture, like, a plum. I don't even know. Like, almost like a plum lollipop or something with, like, sugar on it. Now we know.
Now we know. Good work, Laura, for bringing that to our attention.
I don't want a sugar plum. It
No.
doesn't sound enticing for me.
I'm not saying that I want it, but I'm not as offended by the spaghetti. I mean,
I feel like it makes me want to have a plate of spaghetti, like, with sauce, without the syrup.
You want, like, the dinner that Emily made.
It also, like,
Yeah.
makes me want to have a glass of Coca-Cola.
right out of a glass or just drinking out of
A
the.
glass, like
Okay.
a cold glass.
What about Jovi's ramen? It was definitely like cup o' noodles style, not like.
But I like ramen packets.
Yeah, I think
Like over a
that's.
nice, yeah.
I liked the exposition that she's like, you know, no, well, she already mentioned they shut off my water. I felt like that just kind of added to it. Like, that's kind of the, like,
Yeah.
college kid or like
Yeah.
in between
23-year-old.
paychecks meal,
I kind of wish that they would have gone out to dinner. I think that would have been like an extra scene, but I could see that being funny.
the code.
Yeah, they say the code food, but they never go out. They never eat anything together
Yeah, they
besides
only have
grab a cup
the
of coffee.
coffee.
I definitely was craving like a nice, like quality hot chocolate with mini marshmallows and some popcorn. Like obviously because you always have to have popcorn, but I feel like that's like very comforting. Also, like during the New York scenes, I was like, I could just have a bagel right now. Like I just feel like any of like the classic carbs that you can't go wrong, I would be down to eat during that. And Laura, I agree with the Coke. There's like something about either pizza or Italian food in general with Coke where it's like so nicely complemented, and that dinner that they had looked so good. Like I want to sit at that table and have dinner with them with their salad and like their spaghetti. It just is such a comforting dinner.
Okay, so for this week, for our dinner party, we are going to do a holiday potluck at Emily and Walter's. Emily's budget meeting is over. Walter is done with his pitch for Mr. Greenway. We are relaxed in their comfortable, amazing home. So we're all going to give each other one person, and we're going to decide what that person would bring to the potluck. So, I will go first. I'm going to give Lisa John Favreau, the doctor. I don't remember what his doctor is, but since you brought him up so much.
Okay, so my person also is unnamed, but I'm gonna give you the nun from the orphanage who cares for Buddy, the one who
Oh,
puts him down in the crib.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say the nun
Oh,
who got
not
the
with the
books,
book.
who got the books taken away.
But the children love the books.
So many nuns in this movie.
We also don't know her name, but that's
okay. This is the nun who put the cookies next to the diapers.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Laura, I'm going to give you. Can I give you two people?
Sure.
I'm going to give
Yeah,
you
we
'cause
need
they
four.
I mean they can come together cuz they work together, so they can come, or they work in
Okay.
the same building. So I'm going to give you the not 26-year-old's mailroom work release employee and Deborah.
Oh, I know we haven't talked about Deborah much on this pod. Wow, this is a group. I feel like this is the essential workers dinner.
just olive oil and salt and pepper
Wow.
and
Not from the orphanage.
that's what
Love
she's
this.
bringing, a 3-bean salad. Laura, how
All
about
right.
the duo? Are they bringing their own dishes or are they coming in together?
Okay. So, 25-year-old's mailroom worker, he's fully not bringing any food. He's only bringing alcohol. There's no way. I picture him just bringing like a big version of the alcohol that he's drinking, and like red Solo cups, all that, and maybe like he went to a corner store like Bodega and got some like candy. Like he's like just bringing some Christmas chocolates. I don't really know what would constitute as Christmas chocolate. Maybe he's like, I brought some Hershey bars or something. Whatever. I could see him having a sweet tooth. Deb, I feel like she's not the best. Not that she's not the best cook. I don't think that she has the opportunity to cook a lot because her boss is awful and he makes her stay late for meetings all the time. Like she was at the pitch meeting. She didn't have to be there.
No.
She had to take down notes. I think she has like some of her like comfort meals. Like she's like, this is what I'm good at. Every Christmas and every Thanksgiving, I make my famous sweet potatoes. Like I think that she's from the South because she says like, you made my day. So I can picture her making like some really, really, really good sweet potatoes, but like bad for you sweet potatoes. Like it has a lot of sugar, a lot of butter, a lot of maple syrup, and maybe even some like candy pecans in there. And they are like a hit. And I think that she's making them for the mailroom employee because she knows he has a sweet tooth. Like sometimes she just brings him down like mini versions in some Tupperware. And I could also see her maybe bringing like maybe like stuffing too. I think that she's like, you know what? I've been working a lot this year. Stuffing is a labor of love, but I'm going to make it because the nun is not coming through with her beans. So I got to step it up. I got to step it up with my stuffing. And I think that she might even bring a pie, but she may get it from like a bakery. I could see her being like, I'm getting my bonus this year. Maybe a pumpkin or a pecan. I can see her liking pecans. I don't know why.
Yeah, I could see that.
And she's done declawing kittens, which is great. She's off the hook. Connie found another person to help her out. All right, Lisa, what is Dr. John bringing?
He's a pediatrician, so there's no question he is on call all the time. But he looks like he definitely could be Italian. So I'm going to say, or have some Italian in him. So I'm going to say he knows how to make like a really good bolognese sauce, like a homemade bolognese with linguine, and he's going to just show up everybody there with his cooking skills. But because he's a pediatrician and he wants a well-balanced meal, he'll also bring like some steamed string beans with a nice garlic and olive oil. And he'll just pick up a fresh loaf of bread on the way, obviously, because he could just stop at a bakery or a store in the city.
Dr. John. If Emily and Michael are home, I mean, he knows them on a first name basis. So I think that they're going to be very happy with this. They're big spaghetti people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I think he would definitely bring a pasta dish. He looks like a pasta guy.
He's really trying to show up the nun and her bean salad. So
I know we have some bean competition. I mean, there's no way that people are going to eat the bean salad when he shows up with the garlic.
I feel like this party is kind of shot though. Like I think that it's not. I could see them all being like kind of wiped out from work.
So you don't think they're going to do the Russian dance?
No, I feel like. I don't know. The fact that he's bringing a big bottle of liquor.
But I bet he's the only one who drinks it. Right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel like the nun like has since lost her job because she lost one of the kids. So she's like,
she lost a kid.
She's
she
like,
poisoned the staff, or she poisoned Santa.
She's in like her nun outfit, but she's like, I got fired like 25 years ago. So she's like, I lost one of my children. And,
my gosh.
they never forgave me.
Well, I'm sure that Deborah brought extra Tupperwares for everybody to bring the leftovers home. She's was on top of that as soon as she got the invite.
I feel like she might have made some hot cocoa on that stove.
Mm-hmm.
The Hobbs, they have a nice little kitchen.
They do.
It's a big apartment. It seems like a big apartment. Now you're really making me want some hot cocoa with some marshmallows on there. All right, Michelle, I know I'm the keeper of the schedule, but I've kind of hijacked this episode since I love Elf so much. So let's share, what are we releasing next week?
Next week, it's just going to be us, no guests, though we have many guests coming up later in this season. And we are going to be talking about The Holiday, another Nancy Meyers film to add to our collection.
And since it's such a special movie, and there's only going to be two of us, we may try and incorporate some type of holiday cocktail. So as you're listening along, make sure you pick out a fun little cocktail that you want to drink along with us and enjoy. It could be, a Cameron Diaz just bottle of red wine, just drinking straight out of the bottle too. But we'll get into that next week.
See you next week.